Alright, I'm going to show you how to use your digital multimeter to measure voltage, current, and resistance in a circuit. And so we have the same simple circuit that we had set up before in the breadboarding exercise, where we have just a single LED lighting up. So to review a little bit, let's look at again the variable power supply. And so I don't have anything plugged into that variable power supply right now. I'll go ahead and turn it on. Again, for this circuit, we want the current to be turned up all the way, so I'm going to turn that all the way to the right. Not the voltage, sorry. This is the voltage. I have that all the way to the left. The current, we are going to want to turn all the way to the right. Then the voltage, we're going to want to set at 2 volts. Again, if you set it higher than that, you will burn the LED up. So please do not do that. We'll look at our breadboard now. I'll go ahead and give the breadboard power by plugging my leads into my power supply. And then I'll power the breadboard by hooking those leads directly into the breadboard. Alright, so my light came on, so my circuit is working. The first thing we're going to measure is voltage. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my multimeter here and I'm going to turn it into direct current voltage, which is over here. And I'm going to turn it to this first notch that says 2. Alright. Then I'm going to take a couple of these things here. They're alligator clips, and they've been set up so I can plug them directly into my breadboard. So I'll do that, and I'm going to do it across the entire circuit. And so I'm going to have it set up in the positive and negative side of my circuit. And so that'll go across the entire thing. Then I'm going to hook my alligator clips into the leads on the multimeter. So I've hooked those leads up onto the leads in the multimeter, and you can see that I'm getting a value reading of 1. So when I have it set here at 200, this is the largest setting. If I get a reading of 1 on my multimeter, that means I need to move it. Still getting a 1. I'm going to move it one more time, and now I'm getting a reading of about 2.21 volts. And so again, if I look at my variable power supply, that's what I'm putting into it, about 2 volts. And so that's what the reading I'm getting. All right. And so that is how you measure voltage. Okay. So I'm going to turn my multimeter off, and we're going to measure resistance now. So we're going to measure resistance across the entire circuit. A very important thing that you have to understand when we are measuring resistance: you have to turn the power supply off. So whenever we're getting a resistance reading, the power supply needs to be off. And so I'm going to go ahead and turn the power supply off. It's off. I'm going to go back to my breadboard, and I am going to turn the breadboard over here to our range to measure resistance. And so I have 200. I get a 1. I need to move it. Now I'm getting a resistance of, and I'm going to go ahead and write these. I'm going to write these things down. I'm getting a resistance of right at about 1 ohm. So get some paper, scratch piece of paper for this maybe. My voltage was about 2.2 volts. My resistance is, I'm getting about Plug my leads in, 0.98 ohms. And the last thing we're going to measure is current. All right, so again, I'm going to turn this multimeter to off. I'm going to go back down to my power supply. I'm going to turn the power supply on. Again, I have it set at 2 volts. The current is up all the way. On my multimeter now, I am going to set the dial to measure current. So to measure current, it has to be in the system. So if we look, we're in the system. I'm getting a reading of 0, a reading of 1, reading of 1, reading of 1, reading of 1, reading of 1. So one thing we're going to have to change, we're going to have to make. I'm going to go ahead and turn the multimeter to off. I'm going to take out this LED. We're reading current in milliamps here. I'm going to read it over here, and it's going to read in amps. So I took out the red lead, and I'm going to put it on the other side. Now I'm going to go back to where it was at 10. Now I'm getting a current reading of 2.5 amps. So the current I. So my voltage again was 2.2 volts. My resistance was 0.98 ohms. And now I'm going to write in my current. Current is equal to, I'm getting 2.15 amps. Okay, and so let's see if our numbers work out here. So Ohm's law tells us that if we have a voltage, or let's just do it this way, V equals I times R, that's Ohm's law. I is 2.15, R is 0.98. So if I multiply those things, 2.15 times 0.98, I should get my voltage, and I am getting 2.107. So that's pretty close to the 2.2 volt reading we were getting. And so you can check your calculation, make sure your numbers are working out, and that's how you use the digital multimeter.